In the fall, the monthly cost of a one-bedroom apartment was up almost 11% over the same time period in 2020. Eviction protections tied to the pandemic were ending, and federal rental assistance flowing into the state was slow to be distributed. So, where are we now, and where is this part of the housing market going? For some of those answers, we turn to Brian Carberry of Rent.com, who joins me now live. Good morning to you.
Hi, good morning.
So, Brian, usually if someone has an eviction on their rental records, landlords don't want anything to do with them when it comes to a new leasing agreement. Unfortunately, we know the courts are clogged with pandemic-era eviction proceedings because a lot of the assistance hasn't matched up with when landlords wanted what was owed. All of these folks will still need some place to live. So do you think landlords will actually become more lenient when it comes to renters who have an eviction in their past?
You know, it's really going to depend on each individual landlord, how they want to handle it. But I do think you're right. You're going to see a lot of renters on the market that need a place to live. And a lot of them may have an eviction on their record or some sort of red flag that would normally come up. I do think landlords, by and large, will be a little more lenient to people that have an eviction on their record. It may be a little challenging if that renter is up against another renter with a cleaner record. But I do think that a lot of landlords are going to see that this is just kind of the way the world is these days. And a lot of renters are going to have those evictions. And I think there will be a little bit of leniency where there wasn't before.
That's good news for a lot of people to hear. Now, 3 California cities made it into Apartment Guide's latest top 10 for the biggest rent increases last year. Sacramento prices actually fell 3.8% in that ranking for 2021 when compared to 2020. But given what landlords have been through and that the vast majority of those folks in California are small operators with just 1 or 2 properties, given what they've been through with delayed payments and the like, where do you see prices going this year?
You know, it's really tough to predict. This pandemic has kind of thrown things for a loop in terms of what those rent price trends would be. Generally, we expect to see prices slowly trickle up throughout the year, kind of on a whole. In the summer, they go up a little bit more. In the winter and fall, they're kind of flat. But things kind of have really peaked up in the past 6-7 months. We're seeing rates of increase, what we wouldn't normally expect this time of year. I do expect prices are going to continue to slightly climb. There'll be some markets in some neighborhoods where they go up higher, they drop down lower than others. But as a whole, I do think prices are going to go up. I think once people begin to be evicted, once the whole court backlog is over and done with, some landlords are unfortunately going to have to raise their rent prices. One, to kind of be even with what the market dictates. If they can get more for their unit, they're going to ask for it, especially if people are going to be willing to pay it. And 2, they might need to recoup some of the lost money that they weren't able to collect, that they needed to pay their bills, their mortgage, whatever it might be. So I do think as a result of all this, you may see prices continue to climb. Again, it's really going to depend on each individual landlord, how they want to price their properties and their units, and really what each individual market is dictating as a fair asking price for an apartment.
Now, people are still struggling financially because of the pandemic, and if landlords by and large just keep raising rents, as you say, to recoup some of what they've lost, who's going to be able to pay these rents? Thousands are already priced out of anything in a quote-unquote safe area or something that might be close to current jobs or job opportunities.
Yeah, you know, it is tough. There is definitely a bigger gap that's growing between affordable housing and more luxury housing. And you are going to find a lot of people that unfortunately are priced out of certain neighborhoods, whether it is close to work, close to schools, whatever demand that they have to want to live in a certain area. I think you're going to see a lot of people look to move in with roommates or move in with family, which was a trend that we actually saw in the beginning of the pandemic. There was a lot of consolidation of households at that time as people were looking for really any way to cut costs. Split the rent with someone else, split the utilities with someone else. Over the past year, people kind of ventured out on their own again. We're looking for more places, and I think we're going to kind of see things revert back to that. So you're going to see a lot of people taking on roommates or moving in with others. But really, you know, landlords can price a unit for as much as they want. It doesn't mean that a renter will be willing to pay that. But if a landlord prices something and they find someone that's going to bite on it and rent something for a little bit more than they normally would, a landlord's going to try to do that because, again, it is a business for them and they're going to try to get the most that they can for their unit.
Now we're going through another coronavirus surge, thousands hospitalized across the country, parents unable to work as they care for the increased number of children suffering more severe illness, adults themselves who are sick, thus unable to work. That all impacts the ability to pay for housing. Do you see parts of the country opting for new rent moratoriums?
You know, right now, not a whole lot. There are certain cities and certain towns that have talked about doing it, but it hasn't been as widespread as we saw with anything federal from the CDC or even on a statewide level. A lot of the protections that we saw in place really were expiring this month. There's been some talk of it, but so far no real big movement in terms of creating additional protections for renters.
Alrighty, a huge issue that is on the minds of many, many families as they try to pay those housing bills. So we'll put a pin in it there, and of course we'll have you back.
Thank you. Have a great one.